What's up, guys? Welcome back to We Need to Talk episode number 14. And today we got Vietnam economic boom and next big economic power in Asia. And I've been holding off on doing this video for a very long time. No reason specifically, but it's just I wanted more data to come out about it, because when I first started finding out about it, I was like, holy crap, like they have a huge car manufacturer coming out and they're selling tons of vehicles. Their economy is booming. They went from one of the poorest countries in the world to a modern rich country in the world. So per capita, they're doing really well. So today, finally wanted to do it. So today we'll be going over first three websites that I found and articles you guys would like enjoy. All the links will be in the description like always. First one we have is Vietnam Q1 growth at highest ever since 2020, Singapore newspaper. Second, we have World Bank, Vietnam shift from poorest in the world into a lower middle income country. And third, we have Supply IA, pros and cons manufacturing moving from China to Vietnam. So those are the key things I want to, point out and pinpoint of like why I think that Vietnam is going to become the next superpower in Asia. Not like obviously like bigger than Japan and bigger than South Korea, sorry. But they will be comparable. Indonesia's there as well, so they're huge. But I think they're going to surpass Brunei and Malaysia, the Philippines and Cambodia and Thailand, Burma. I mean, a lot of those countries. Bangladesh, so on and so forth. I see them, starting to pass those. And also I think they might even pass Australia, So it's crazy. We'll see. They have the population. They have everything they need. And if they get all the manufacturing companies from China, then there you go. So the first one we have is from, I don't know how to pronounce this, ADND, People's Army newspaper. Okay, it's kind of communist looking. Vietnam Q1 growth at highest level since 2020, Singapore newspaper. The article cited the General Statistics Office GSO's report on March 29th as saying that Vietnam's gross domestic product, was GDP, grew 5.6% year on year in the first quarter, with export growth returning in a double-digit rate. This expansion was greater than those recorded in the same period in the previous 4 years, but slower than 6.7% rise in the preceding quarter. The largest contributors to Vietnam's growth during the quarter was the service and manufacturing sectors, which grew 6.1% and 6.98% respectively. The country's exports in March surged by 14.2% from a year ago to roughly 34 billion USD. Imports also rose by 9.7% from a year earlier to nearly $31 billion USD. Overall, exports and imports saw double-digit expansions of 17% and 13.9% respectively. Compared to the same period last year, this resulted in a trade surplus of around 8.1 billion USD in the first quarter. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Like for a small country like that, they're not small as in like population, but they're small as in what the world used to think of them. Second one we have is, this is from the World Bank. So this is pretty crazy. I didn't even know they had the World Bank in Vietnam. Vietnam has a shift from centrally planned to a market economy, has transformed the country from one of the poorest in the world into a lower middle income country. Vietnam now is one of the most dynamic emerging countries in East Asia region. Vietnam has been a development success story. Economic reforms since the launch of Doi Moi in 1986, coupled with beneficial global trends, have helped propel Vietnam from being one of the world's poorest nations to a middle-income economy in one generation. Between 2002 and 2022, GDP per capita increased 3.6 times, reaching almost $3,700. Poverty rates, US 3.6 a day in 2017 PPP, declined from 14 in 2010 to 3.8% in 2020. Wow, like that's 10+% decrease. That's crazy. Thanks to its solid foundation, the economy has proven resilient through different crises or crises. Economic growth is projected to reach 4.7% in 2023 due to the moderation of domestic demand and the challenging external environment, and gradually accelerating to 5.5% in 2024 and 6% in 2025. Well, that's their projections. So like when you see like I guess like the World Bank also saying, you know, their growth is exponential and it's growing crazy, crazy, crazy. And not only that, they're giving credit to they have a great foundation. And there's a lot of new business coming into, which going to get into our third article by Supply IA. Pros and cons manufacturing moving from China to Vietnam. This is in December 9th, 2023. So this is pretty recent. Vietnam has become the primary manufacturing hub for major brands like Adidas, Nike, and many other fashion companies are following suit. It's on track to become a premier location for manufacturing in industries such as fashion, footwear, furniture, garments, and electronics. The key advantages of China manufacturing moving to Vietnam investing include a sizable labor force, a strategic location, and political stability. This guide will compare China and Vietnam to help you make an informed decision. So like these are the key points that they point out in their website. Impact of the US-China trade war. The US-China trade war imposed substantial tariffs on Chinese goods, less cost effective to manufacture in China. As a result, Vietnam experienced a substantial annual increase exports to the U.S. with a growth rates ranging from 20 to 30%. Like that's pretty crazy because you know the U.S. and China have like you know so much tension right now, and you see all these tariffs putting restrictions on companies for selling their goods in the United States. So the profit margins are shrinking and shrinking every year. If you want to make things in China and sell them here, it's becoming more and more difficult and more costly to your profits. The second thing they have here is attractiveness to small companies. Smaller enterprises have recognized the cost efficiency of relocating their manufacturing operations to Vietnam, resulting in a diverse range of industries making the move. Vietnam, known for its prowess in footwear manufacturing, now hosts major players like Nike, producing 12% of its footwear there annually, and Adidas with an extensive production facilities. The footwear exports industry alone in Vietnam is valued at nearly $22 billion a year. Jeez. And we got the third one is expansion of high-tech manufacturing. The technology sector is increasingly embracing Vietnam as a production hub, complementing their operations in China. For instance, Apple has started producing AirPods in Vietnam to reduce import costs from China. Samsung has also relocated one of its Chinese factories to Vietnam, leading to a 300% increase in electronics production. Whoa. So as soon as they moved them, they're making 300% on their production. It's crazy. And you know, all this, reading all these, there's some other articles too I read, but I didn't find them like substantial enough to like put it in here. There is one I wish I could have added was their car company. They have a car company they're selling hundreds of thousands of vehicles now, which is a very big success, and it's hard to do. Like if you look at other companies like GM and Ford and others, you see it's very hard to sell even 100,000 units or move 100,000 units, and because it's new, like it's pretty crazy for a developing country in the 20 years to develop a company, a car company, and a tech company, and footwear and clothing, and they're trying to do all kinds of things. And not only that, they kind of keep their own lane, not necessarily isolationists, but in terms of other people's religions and stuff like that, they don't seem like they like to impede on other people or want to expand, because there was a war. I'm not sure if it was against Cambodia or another country west of them. They had a giant war during the Vietnam War, which pulled us in and pulled a bunch of other people in. But they returned the land. They just had issues with them doing terrorist attacks in Vietnam. All that got sorted out. But you see that they don't have an imperialist mindset. They're not trying to take territory or conquest. So yeah, these are my closing remarks for this. I thought this was a very good video. I hope it does well as well. And who knows? Maybe in a couple of years, we go back to this video, and I'm not gonna say I was right, but I hope I'm pretty close, because they seem to be a really chill, cool country. You know, they don't want to start anything. They don't want to start any beef. They don't want to start any, wars or anything like that. So like, I guess we should applaud countries like this, even though it's not like, even though, because like we used to do that with China. I just wish we could just move on to Vietnam, and maybe China can learn from this and revert to what they were in the 90s with us. The success of Vietnam and how their poverty has diminished to below 4% nationwide is beautiful to see. From rags to riches, they are the footprint for other small countries to follow, an example of hard work. Capitalism isn't the only reason Vietnam is gaining wealth. It's their politics on the world stage that makes a huge impact on their success. The US and other quote unquote Western countries are removing China as the world's manufacturing hub. I hope Vietnam inspires countries to pursue peace and capitalism over wars and violence to enrich their citizens. Russia, China, North Korea, Venezuela, Iran, Afghanistan, and more should be watching and learning from countries like Vietnam and South Korea to prosper together and make heaven on earth. So that's basically what I want to do with this video. I want to put the word out there that we should start embracing Vietnamese culture and stuff like that, just like we did with the Chinese culture in the 90s. And we were kind of like we were sharing cultures. We had Chinatowns everywhere, and we would buy Chinese food, and people had like Chinese movie marathons, and like it was beautiful. Like I grew up in that era. For like example, the Jet Li and the Jackie Chan era, and the Jean-Claude Van Damme, and all of those doing Chinese moves and fighting moves and stuff like that. All those Chinese movies and stuff. Those movies were awesome. That culture was super sick. But now it just feels like that culture is kind of like they want to dominate the world stage. For example, they're doing like crazy loans and investments with high interest rates. And African countries are really poor. Like one country, Sri Lanka, is defaulting on their payments. And since they defaulted on their payments, they put in their clause that they will take over parts of their land in return of non-payments. So China now owns like multiple ports in Sri Lanka, which is right next to India, which is their rival. They're also doing this with other countries. They're doing this with the country Montenegro in Europe. They're doing the same thing. They give huge loans, high interest rates, and no escape from them, other than giving land, giving airports, giving manufacturing, giving resources is another one. They're doing that a lot in Africa. So like they're kind of like putting kind of like a scheme where like, oh, we'll let you borrow as much money as possible with not a realistic cap. Let them borrow a lot, and then once it comes down to the payments and the high interest payments, those countries can't not make a profit on their investments to their own country fast enough, like a turnaround rate fast enough where they can start paying the loan off. And obviously they go into crazy amounts of this, like Sri Lanka and Montenegro and some other countries in Asia. Like it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. Countries in Africa, they're gonna start experiencing the exact same thing. You're gonna start seeing a bunch of countries in Africa complaining and fighting and rioting against Chinese people because they're already sending troops there to what do they call them, to secure assets. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I gotta say for this video, guys. Hope you guys love this video. Share this with your friends and family. Comment your thoughts down below. Like this video, and please subscribe to the channel. Help us grow and have a bigger impact. This is your host Jose, Hitting Escape. Peace.